think you're excited. Today we're coming to the, this fourth lecture of, poetry. And I think most of you are excited because they have something to say. So as usual, let us start by, by having like somebody to read her report. Okay.
Fighting for survival can't be abandoned, since no one can stop dreaming of the sweet memories in life. We all want to retrieve every sweet moment and live it again with the same people, or maybe with others. And this is me. Having the same course for the second time gives me a flashback of the sweetest moments I have ever spent in my life. When I see the girls reading their creative reports with a victory smile, I remembered that the smile I must have drawn when I was reading my first report. But when the same creativity comes with the same words I heard in the past, it must be something incredible. Since the music of alliteration, metaphors, paradox are heard again, I completely recognized the reason behind giving them the term aesthetics. So I admit it's a privilege more than a resentment to repeat the same course again.
Good. Thank you. So you are affirming like what I'm doing here. Thank you for this report. Yes. And like you can attend the course more than once, but every time you have something new. Yeah. Okay, yes. Right, let's see. Jihan.
Good morning, everybody. Having been ill for a couple of days, I was compelled to miss the poetry class. Though I came back last class and was quite thrilled at the nicely air-conditioned room with the air that was tickling my still warm face, the cameras were behind me, and having not prepared yet, I was trying to sink further in my chair and hide between the colorful heads in the class. The poem being discussed, however, seemed pretty fun and easy to analyze. Dr. Akram's exploration and investigation of the various aesthetic and figurative elements were really nice and were really exciting and got me more and more excited. I feel excited about the class, and there it goes. With the next class, my journey of exploration will begin.
Thank you very much. Okay, I know like a lot of you are willing to read, but I don't like to disappoint you. You can just come and read it quickly. Next time I'm going like to choose randomly. Okay, go ahead.
My last lecture not in this class, okay, because I escaped from this class.
Okay, so you are coming back. You are a returnee. Good.
Yes. Escaping from that room is what I did. So nice, so comfortable, but I was just like a bird in cage that could not fly. Move camera 1, switch camera 2. That what the men in that room keeping said. Walking upstairs with my friend, showing me her report with little shy. What amazing job you do! It touched from me the sky. Go ahead, beneath the hope that give live to whose heart is dead. Kick out your afraid and just try. One day your struggle will end, and we'll see the shine of success laying in your bed. With determination, one could not be but Guy. Finally she started reading, and my heart with a pleasure fly. Wow, great doing, my professor said. Then, with our interesting poem, we go deep and high. The time passed away, and one idea didn't leave my head. Can I write well as my friend? Yes, you can do whatever live in your side. Just be strong and don't let it die.
Good. This is very interesting. I like this report because it's like creative. It has some poetic aspect. And I like it also because it runs against the motif of the poem. Because you see, in the poem, the poet was frustrated, the poet was disappointed, and it seems like he has already, made up his mind, like to relinquish, to give up, any attempt of hunting, the deer. But here we have a student who is persistent, who's not going to give up. You see? Good. So today's class is going to be a little bit different. Like it's a practical more than me just talking. I know that I assigned you to read the first part of the critical plan. So I want first at the beginning to see what you have understood. Then we're going to go again through like the aesthetics to show you the aesthetics and to see how we can link between like the aesthetics and the meaning of the poem, or let's say the possible meaning of the poem. So let me ask you, what do you think of the first part of the critical plan? Yes. Yes, please.
Could you criticize a poem? You should answer some questions.
Yes.
First, like who is the speaker, the language, the thought, the feeling. Then you have to understand the poem and the language and read it again, more again, in order to understand it deeply and then criticize it.
So yes. You think like when we embark on reading any poem, we don't have like just to go to the poem without asking ourselves some questions, because I think asking questions will help us, to have a better understanding of the poem. So this is very important. So who's speaking to whom? What is like the setting of the poem in time? What is the setting of the poem in place, and so on. Like I think it is very important here when we. Like in this poem, who's speaking? Who's speaking? Yeah, like it's very important. Like a courtier, the poet, an ordinary man, like who's talking? And to whom? And I think, how many voices we have in the poem. It's very important to know, like how many voices we have in the poem. Because like realizing this or finding answer to these questions will help us to draft our, let's say, initial critique of the poem. Good. Let's see somebody else. Like, what do you understand from what you have read? Yes. So. Okay, you're coming. Yes, you're welcome. Good. So let's go through the question. The first question: what is like? Who's talking? I think. What is the first question? The setting of the poem in time. Do you think this is very important, like question? Does this give us clue? And if we are talking about this poem, and I think, we have now in mind like the setting of the poem. How does this help us? Yes, Anna?
I'm sure that it's like an essential aspect that when we know the time that the poem was written and we know the culture of that time, the features of that time, the cases and everything happened in that time. That the poem itself reflects what's happened in that time.
So sometimes it is a reflection. Sometimes it is like an expansion of an idea. Sometimes it runs against the prominent ideas of the time.
Yeah.
See, so it's very important to understand the setting of time, like when was the poem written. Yes.
I think it is important to know the time because we have to know the period because every period has a specific quality.
Yes, yes, you're right. Every period has reading expectations, like because the poets were writing for the readers of the time, and of course they knew what they expected. Yes, Jihan?
I think sometimes it is actually essential, but sometimes it really doesn't matter. Sometimes you have a text that means something back in time, but when you read it now, it gives the meaning a whole different dimension. So it also gives it richness when you don't really attach it to a specific period of time. When you just take it as a general.
You are right, but this depends on what kind of critic you are. If we are dealing with the new critics, of course, like Jihan studied, schools of criticism. Like, yes, if we are dealing with new critics, we have to forget anything, any background. But nowadays, the most prominent school of criticism, or schools of criticism, are the cultural critics and the new historicists. The new historicists think that the poem was a kind of dialogue, like between the text and the age itself. Okay, but thank you. This means we don't have. Yes, it is very important to know the time, but we can discuss the poem in isolation. But this gives us very objective. Yes.
So I think it's like a vital way or strategy to study history by reading poems from ages ago.
Yeah. So I think also it is a kind of revision, because sometimes we take what other people say for granted, and in the poem, we believe the poet. However, some of you was a little bit cynical, they didn't trust what the poet said. They didn't believe him, and they started to think of the whole anti-feminist culture of the time. See what I mean? Because some of you didn't believe that the poet was in that way was a victim, but he was rather a victimizer. So all these things might be aroused when you think, what is the setting of the poem in time? And then what is the setting of the poem in a place? It's very important. The place. Because sometimes, the place might restrict you to certain norms. If we think of our poet as, a courtier, a man who was living in a court, so I think he had to respect the rules, the regulations of the court. Otherwise, he would be put in prison, like what happened to him. So I think the place, sometimes we are affected by the place. So if you are talking about the place of the poem, you have the hunting scenes, and I think hunting was a picture of the daily life of the royal family during that time. So one sport, one kind of sports the king was involved in is to go hunting, and I think hunting has to do with it is a leisure activity, but it is a leisure activity for aristocrats, for high-class people. So I think all of these might come to our mind. Okay, what other questions we have? Who's the speaker? Do you think it's very important to know who's the speaker? Who's the speaker in the poem? Who's the speaker? Okay? The poet, a man, a woman. Yeah, we have the voice of a woman, but the main speaker is a man. But don't you think the man here, the speaker voice, is stronger than any voice? And even when he let her speak about herself, he chose something, a certain thing, noli me tangere. That was a little bit, offensive, if you want to say. So he subsumed her voice. I mean, he included her voice in his voice. Okay? Good. To whom? To whom? I think in the poem. Huh? So he was talking to other hunters. He was talking to other men. He was talking to other ladies. Anybody who accused him. And anybody who was envious of him, because some people envied him. Some people envied him, and they thought, he was privileged, but he wanted to show them that his life was different. Okay? Don't you think he was talking to the king as well? To the king. Imagine yourself the king. what would your reaction be? Would you be happy or you would not be happy? Why? Huh? Yes? Would you be happy like if you were the king and listen to this? You know? No, why?
Because he loved his wife.
Ah, yeah, I think he would be mad because he's talking about his wife, you know? Good. Who thinks she would be happy? Yes?
I think that he will be happy because like gave up, like chasing him.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he gave up.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, also like Noli Me Tangere, like because he's the most powerful. Nobody is allowed to rival or to vie with him because he is an absolute power. I think, you know, he might be happy or, you know, angry. It depends how we interpret this. And the last question is, like after answering all these questions, who is speaking to whom, the setting, the place, you know, what is the poem about? This is the most important thing. What is the poem about? So let me, because this is what I want you to do today, is like to divide in groups and then start to write what might the poem be about. Okay? Good. So let's see. What do you think the poem is about? Huh? It's about courtly love. What do you mean courtly love?
Women from the high class.
Okay.
Fall in love with a woman, with a man from the low class. Fall in love with a woman from the high class, and he.
Okay. So this is like, you know, the meaning, you know, we see in the poem. Okay. Unattainable love, like courtly love, and again, this is an exercise of masculinity. But let's see, let's put this, because this is one of the strongest themes. It is a possible theme. Do you have more themes like, yes? So, do you want to say like the poem is about a class hierarchy, like in that society? Like privileged people who are holding the power, who are holding the money, and the disprivileged people who are having nothing, you see, the weak, and like if we say who are the weak people, we might list the poet, we must list the women, you know, and even other hunters, you know, because they were doing a very thing. Good. What else?
Yes, we can talk about the disappointment of the poet himself and his experience in love, which was the answer.
Yeah, it's still like it is, you know, courtly love. But like here we have about it is about unattainable goal. It is about power. You know, what else? Yeah, it's about class division itself. I don't know.
Evaluating goals.
Evaluating.
If they are like attainable or unattainable, and having like some strategies to follow in order like to achieve every goal.
Yeah, but still it's about unattainable goal, unattainable, you know, ambition. Like everybody of us has an ambition, but sometimes we have a lot of hindrances that impede like the achievement or the fulfillment of this. Okay, now I think we have, today what I'm going to do is like to make you write down what you think the poem about. But let me just remind you of the aesthetics. Like last time we looked at the rhyme and we said we have, as you see, A, B, B, A, B, B, A, and then C, D, E, C, D, E, like this might happen in the poem. I don't know how you can make use of this when you are going to write your critique. What are we going to do with this? Yes, this is a Petrarchan sonnet. The Petrarchan sonnet has two sides, has has two parts, the octave and the sisted. So you might think of the whole argument, how the whole argument is distributed. You might think of the words that make rhyme and their impact on us. You might think also of the change, he's doing, he's trying, because Sir Thomas Wyatt was experimenting, and we don't have like here, we have in the system, like he's not consistent. And even you can do it like this, or you can end by EE, which is a couplet. If you look at the couplet, do you think it is valuable in itself? Like, is there something he is stressing in that couplet? So all these things you might ask when you write, when you want to make use of the rhyme itself. See what I mean? I'll leave this for you, and we'll see what you're going to write. And then the rhythm. I don't know what you are going to do with the rhythm. Yes, we have rhythm, and as you see, the rhythm is a kind of iambic pentameter. But not all the poems like this. We have some verses like we have extra syllables. But this is, as you see, but as for me, alas, I may no more. Titam, 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 titam. It's like an, chi, an, chi, an, chi, an, chi. Like unstressed, stressed. If we look here, but as, you see, but as for me, alas, I may no more. So it is iambic pentameter, and I don't know what you are going to do with this, this meter. Okay? It's musical, of course, but does it, it is like this, titam, 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 titam. Can you link it with, anything related to the feeling of the poem, the feeling of disappointment, the feeling of, whatever? So it's very important. If you cannot, leave it. But I would encourage you, to make use of these aesthetic things. Okay. Yes?
It draws a parallel between the frustration and thinking.
Okay, now, like here, Jihan started to reflect upon this, because if we are talking about frustration, like hope and frustration, so it is, you have this interchangeable effect. It might be. I don't want to rule out something to say, okay, sorry. Here are, some of the themes. You might embrace some of them. And I would leave these themes when you read. It's about attainable, and attainable love. As you see, the speaker chases a woman whom he cannot and must not reach. And must not reach. She's a taboo. She is like something you cannot, see what I mean? For she is a prize of the ruler of the land. So nobody can challenge. Nobody can challenge the king. And I'm not sure whether the poet was antagonist or accomplice with the, accomplice with the king. So he might be like a media machine for the king. Hey, hunters, if you are trying to do like this, this is your fate will be. So he might be admonishing them, warning them. If anybody approaches, let's say, what is related to the king, or something, the king owns, you'll be in trouble. You'll be, see what I mean? Yeah. Shakespeare, in most of his plays, promoted that culture, like the king was divine, and nobody, in the kingdom should think for a moment to contest that power. Otherwise, he would be ostracized like means like marginalized or treated badly. You see what I mean? Good. Another theme is like bowing to absolute power. Like this is what I'm talking about. The king is a power, and so you are, you are showing veneration and submission to that culture. These are possible themes you can add to the courtly love. Unattainable goal. And you can read, I can leave this for you like on the page to read. And here we have all the metaphors we talk about, and I think the alliteration, so you have the metaphor, the alliteration, you have the metaphor, you have the paradox. So all these are elements that you should use when you write. But now, with all these things in mind, how to start is the biggest question. How to start? Now, I think it's very important, like, to contextualize the poem. It's very important, like, to write the first paragraph. Because if you write the first paragraph, in which, like, you have to articulate your thesis, your thesis statement, the topic sentence, and the topic sentence, like, when we are talking about the poem, should include the main idea of the poem. So you might say, let me just help you. This poem seems to be about, let me write even. So I might start saying, this poem, or I might, it's good to say, whoso less to harm is a poem or is a sonnet. I prefer, like, it is different when you say it is a sonnet. It is a sonnet. You show that you started to use. It's a sonnet written by a prominent, uh, 16th century poet or courtier. Poet, and you say he's a courtier. The main theme of the poem seems to be about the main theme of the poem. After that, you say the main theme. Okay, the main theme. Sorry, jump of the poem. Seems. I don't want you to say is, because this is a possibility. We don't want, like, to exhaust any other possibility by saying it is. So the theme seems to be about courtly love, about seems the theme of the poem. Seems to be about. After articulating this, okay, it jumped, it's not. It's about courtly love. After this, it's very important now to say what is courtly love and to relate this. The persona who represents the poet is greatly frustrated Now this is what we say, the elaboration. And look here, the elaboration, is very important. Why? Because, the way you are elaborating, it means you are creating, you're controlling ideas. So the poet is greatly devastated because of the changeability and the inconsistency of, a woman or the woman. So here, like, when you say the changeability, when you say this, like, it means you are enunciating your, like, controlling ideas. And this is in itself like how we start. Okay? Now I would leave you to work on groups. I'll give you like 10 minutes for this exercise and listen, like groups of 3 or 4, and just like try to write, make use of the whatever figure of speech. But I think, some of you might need to write about the theme. Okay? So here, like a group of 3, write about the possible theme. And I want you, like to make use of the, figures of speech. So they might say court aloud, what about the figure of speech? They might say, attainable goal, what are the goals of speech? You might also make use of the rhyme and the rhythm. Tell me how the rhyme and the rhythm are very important. So, okay. So here, you work out the possible theme. Here you try to tell us how the figures of speech are related to the theme. And here, if you need any help, I'm just coming around. Okay, let's see. Let's see here, like those who wrote about the possible theme. Yes, please. So you think that the poem is still courtly love?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a traditional type of poetry in the English literature. This kind of poetry appeared in the 16th
Okay,
century.
but we cannot write like you are defining courtly love, not talking about the theme of the poem. Okay, no. Like when you write about the theme of the poem, you have to elaborate, it only, but don't give a definition of the courtly love. Otherwise, this is like digression, like you're not writing about the poem. Okay, let's suppose that the poem is about courtly love, and the poet is frustrated, disappointed because of the inconsistency of the lady, because of the dishonesty, because of her fickleness. Okay, and he was like to remove any blame, to exonerate himself. Now, in the poem we have, let's say, the metaphors, we have the rhythm, we have very good. I haven't thought of that. So, like T, tam, T. Yeah, it is stressed, unstressed. Like again, this it is like fluctuating. It keeps fluctuating, and this fluctuating. And I have thought of it also like when a hunter is hunting, he has hopes of catching them. These hopes are smashed. Okay, so it's like panting up. Somebody who is running, he's panting out because why? He cannot. Thank you. I have never thought of like the rhythm fitting with the meaning of the poem in this way. Okay, let's shift to the theme group. I want a theme other than courtly love. Okay? We want a theme other than courtly love. Yes? Yes? But you don't. So, is there any other theme? Yes?
Class division.
Class division.
There is two main classes in that society, the lower class and the higher class. And there is some people who has the power, who has the strength, and the other people who has nothing. They are abject. They are very poor. They all their life they are suffering.
Okay, so like she wants to say that the theme is the class division. Okay, do you have anything in the figures of speech to substantiate that or to help that to help us in developing that theme? You know, the allegory itself. Yeah, very good. So.
He cannot say and express his feeling freely. He just mentioned the allegory.
Yeah. So do you want to say like?
He afraid from the king.
You know, or normal people like are not given, like they don't have the right to express themselves.
Yes.
So they opt for the use of allegory.
Yes.
Good.
Also the metonymy of diamonds and fairness.
The metonymy, thank you. The metonymy of diamonds.
And also like
When we are talking about the metonymy of the diamonds, like this shows like diamond has to do with richness, opulence like richness. Okay? Good.
Yeah, it deals with the high class that like she is unattainable to the men of the lower class.
Yes.
Also Caesar.
Caesar, the word Caesar, you know, which is also like a metonymy, like standing for the power, I mean, the upper class or the royal family had all the power in its hand. Good. Let's go back to the rhyme and rhythm. Can you like manipulate it? Because, you know, I think the art of criticism is an art of manipulation and persuasion. You have to manipulate. Okay, they say, like, you know, it's about power. It's about class division. Okay? So what do you want to say? It's a problem, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe we can say that the fact that he actually did change in the rhyme scheme and he did change the meter itself, it shows you that he's actually starving for power, or maybe he's trying to have some sort of control, some sort of...
Very good.
To get a grip of something and do change it as he pleases.
Yeah, like, so this change, like, it has to do with his attempt, like, to change. Yes, he cannot, but still, like, he's telling, I'm trying. Okay, I got disappointment, but somebody might continue, you know. However, like, it is very disappointing, but at least I have tried to change, and the attempt, like, just to try is a good thing in itself. Well, thank you very much for manipulating. So look here, we can manipulate any figure of speech, we can manipulate, any static element to serve our purpose. And you should be very happy because I'm not like just asking you to say one specific theme. You can talk about different themes because what is the poem might be about. So if we say it is about this, it means like we finish the whole poem. Okay? I think we should stop here, but it is now, this is the first experience like with a poem like this. Next time we are moving to another poem, another poet. We're going to read another sonnet, which is Description of Spring. Written by Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey. He was contemporary, and it's very important when you respond, like, to pay attention to details like the differences between the two poems. So thank you very much, and may Allah bless you.